This is The Righteous View with your hosts, Avia Byers, Deborah Hoskins, and Christina McCormick.
Hello to everyone. Welcome to The Righteous View. I am Avia Byers. Our weekly podcast will focus on topics regarding women of all ages. Our mission is to foster righteous, open dialogue on topics that have been taboo within our social communities. We want to cultivate open and healthy discussions between mothers and daughters, husbands and wives, mature women and young women. And our goal is to educate and provide factual information to those demographics concerning our biological, psychological, and spiritual existence. So I'm introducing tonight my co-host, Christina McCormick. And we also want to say we don't have tonight. Deborah Hoskins won't be on. We're asking everyone to keep her lifted in prayer, and the Mickens family. They have one of their siblings is going through surgery, and she's there with her to help with the process of the support, her family members. So we want to keep them lifted up in prayer. But we want to acknowledge our panelists tonight. We have Gloria Cutter-Shore, Lori Byers, and Cassina McDermott. Yes! We have to get I love that applause. Welcome, ladies. Welcome. This panel of women will share their views and perspectives concerning women and relationships. So we welcome you back on this evening. We had a great discussion last week. Ooh, it was so good. It was deep. It was heavy, but it was good. Much needed. And we want to continue in that discussion.
All right. We want to encourage everyone to tune in on Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here for thought-provoking topics that will hopefully stimulate conversations that are sometimes hard and uncomfortable. We are live, supposed to be on Facebook at the Break Awakening, The Righteous View, and YouTube. If you missed a podcast, you can view it in past podcasts on our YouTube channel at The Righteous View. If you enjoy the topics and the discussions have helped you in any way, please subscribe, like, and hit the notification button.
Ding, ding, ding. That's what I need. A bell.
Yeah.
Yes. So we're going to jump right in. So we're continuing our topic on narcissistic and misogynistic spirit over our spiritual assemblies. As you know, we have brought on a panel of men, and now we have our panel of women. And we're going to jump right in. We didn't get to question number 5 last week, so we're going to start off this week with question number 5. But question number, that's going to be question number 1 for this week. Question number 2 is almost, I think, is going to really snowball into our discussion from last week. But we're going to just go ahead and get the ball rolling. Ladies, are you ready?
Yes.
All right. So the first question, Christine, you want to have the...
I don't even have it. I'm looking for it. I'm like, where is it at?
Okay, well, I have it.
Who was it? Okay.
On the screen, though, I guess when you find them. Let me do this. Maybe I'll take them and put them in to WhatsApp, and you can grab them there and put them
Yeah.
post. Okay, so I'll go ahead and do that. So, ladies, the first question is, what is your perspective on open dialogue, and how important is it to you while attempting to build a relationship?
Okay, sorry. I was having a
Oh.
moment. Mic wouldn't cut on. But I'll take that one first. So open dialogue, I guess just from the face value perspective of the phrase, I think is very, 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 very important, especially as we grow older. You have less time to waste, so let's not just pity pat around the important stuff. Let's get to it. So for me, open dialogue and honest communication is 100% necessary. Um, I'll stop there for the moment.
Yep.
It's the self-restraint. So I think open dialogue is extremely important. When I think about open dialogue, I think about basic communication and how it is very important to me when I'm attempting to build a relationship with someone. Being open means that you are ready to receive a relationship as well. And so I think when two people come together and they're both in a place where they're ready to be open and honest about their past, their present, and even their dreams going into the future, what things they're working on right now. Again, back to the conversation last week about transparency and vulnerability. Don't think you have to be all vulnerable in open dialogue at the forefront, but I do think that you're open, you're ready to receive, but you're also ready to fill. And I think it's important when attempting to build a new relationship with someone that is a commonality, because you can't have open dialogue with somebody that is not open. If they're just closed off and they're shy, not shy, but if they're closed off, like they're guarded with their conversation or guarded with their answers and responses, for me, that's a sign that that person may not be ready to build the kind of relationship in the depth that I'm ready to build. And that's okay. That's just for me to recognize and not for me to continue to pursue.
So, open dialogue is very important in the relationship, in my opinion, as well. Because, as the saying goes, the right hand doesn't know what the left, what's going on in your world. You don't know what's going on in mine. It's hard to build anything together. So, the open, honest, transparent communication needs to be there. I need to be able, and as Gloria was saying, it's not expected to right away be vulnerable and just, give you a whole sob story in the beginning. But at some point, the dialogue does need to progress to being able to entrust that kind of conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Can I? Oh,
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I just wanted to ask a question of each of you. But go ahead if you were.
I was just gonna say, truthfully, for me, I don't, I don't think we need vulnerability. I'm sorry, no, transparency in the beginning. I think you have to earn my transparency. I can be honest without being transparent, because I need to know, as Gloria was saying last week, I need to know that you are able to handle that full see through everything.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't, then, I need to figure that out as well,
Mm-hmm.
and not in a detrimental way. So that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's great because that was what I was going to ask. I mean, how transparent, how open should you be? I mean, Some people, you meet those people in 15 minutes, you know their whole life story and how angry they are with their mother or their father, or how they just, you shouldn't know that much about a person in 15 minutes.
Mhm.
I mean,
That's
that's
true.
just
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think like I think from a
strangers.
healthy place. Oh, Christina, are you saying something?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say that I've had strangers or people that I work with. I seem to have that face that says, come tell me about all your business, because I've had people come up and tell me stuff, and I'm like, I'm not sure I'm supposed to know that, but oh, okay. Yeah, as far as a relationship goes, I'm not saying like it needs to be immediately. I'm giving you all the details of my life, but eventually we need to get there.
yeah. I
Yeah.
have a face too, Christina, and I don't really want to have that face. I'm like, do I have a sign on my head that says, please tell me your whole life story? while we're
Right.
standing in the while we're standing in the grocery line.
I was gonna say, like, I don't think I have the face, but I think I have the personality where people are just naturally comfortable talking to me. So like I've been told that my energy or like my conversation can be disarming to a person. And so I think recognizing how you communicate and how others communicate with you will help you know when someone is just, for lack of a better phrase, trauma dumping on you versus truly trying to connect with you. Because unfortunately, some people, everyone is not emotionally mature. Everyone is not in their journey of going to see a therapist or going to seek mental counseling or going to a spiritual leader to talk about certain things. And some people just see you as like, hey, this is a safe space. I'm just going to talk. Right. And that's what I've learned in like my day journey. A lot of men just want to talk. Like, I'm like, you ain't got no homeboy, you ain't got no friend, you ain't got no mama, you ain't got no best, you ain't got nobody to talk to. And like the stuff they just get it out. And it's because a lot of times as women, we are very peaceful women, right? Like we're coming to this dialogue and this conversation as, well, I'll say peaceful compared to others, right? That they may have encountered, right? You might be the most peaceful woman that they've ever encountered because all they've encountered is women that are very loud, rambunctious, maybe they speak down to them, whatever the case may be. So when they're in your presence, it's just naturally disarming. So now they feel like, it's kind of like, you know how little kids will tell you all their parents' business? I used to do that when I was little. I used to tell my auntie all my mom's business. I used to be like, oh, we going to the park. We going to walk 7 miles. Let me tell you what's going on in my life. Like, but it's because she was a disarming presence. And that's just as a child. So I kind of see it in the same way as like when you have a presence or a conversation style that is disarming naturally, people, whether it's building a friendship, whether it's building like even coworkers, you just trying to go to work, but your coworker want to tell you all about their life. And it's like, babe, I'm just here to do my 9 to 5 job. Right. It's just, so I think again it translates to different bubbles, different relationships. But I think it's very important that you recognize when dating that just because someone is open with you does not mean that you are required to be open with them. And just because they are open with you does not mean that they want to be in a relationship in the same way that you want to be in a relationship. It's very important to kind of like listen very clearly while they're talking, since they are being so open.
I am my kind of last point is I think the word dialogue is very important in this phrase, because to me a dialogue is at least two people talking. So if only one of us is talking, then it's not quite gonna work. So yeah, that's all of that to say. Open dialogue is very important to me.
Christina, did you want to share anything else concerning open dialogue?
Um, no, I just know, like for me, it's I have to have a certain level of comfortability with a person, or I even just in general conversation especially on the phone, because I don't really like being on the phone too much. But if we're talking on the phone and you're asking me questions, but I can give a one-word answer to it, that's probably all. I'm gonna need to ask those open-ended questions.
Okay, that's good. So, if say for instance, you have, because I also believe, and I know we're talking about men and women and dating and everything. I also believe that there um, is, and I don't want to ever get like preachy or whatever, but I also do believe that there is an anointing on a person's life that people will be drawn to you, in that way. But I'm glad that Glory brought out that point that because they share everything like that or feel comfortable, you don't have to. But that there can be that anointing on you as a person that tends to draw, especially if a person is needy or is broken. So that will tell you that this person is not ready to go into a relationship because they need to take care of some stuff. Um, so what do y'all think concerning
I definitely agree. And I think that goes back to you knowing who you are first and knowing the type of people you attract and like your purpose in life, right? Not to dive too much into that, but for me, I'll just speak from my own experience. Like I used to make the mistake when I was dating of a man sharing and being open, meaning that he wanted to have a deeper connection with me. Because why would you be sharing your childhood with me if you didn't like me? If you didn't want to be in a relationship with me, you don't want to marry me. Like, why would you be telling me these things? Oh my God, girl, no, he just ain't got no friends, right? So but that came with being open to a dating journey, right? And learning that about myself and learning that I tend to attract men, good or bad, that are broken, right? But I had to realize that just because they are coming to me does not mean that I need to clean them up, feed them. Oh, no, 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 no. Maybe I just need to pray for you and release you back into the wild. Maybe you just need a woman's perspective. Maybe you're going to become my homeboy and we can go kick it and get numbers from different people. You know what I'm saying? Like I had to really, and I know it sounds funny, it sounds candid, but like, I was like post-divorce thinking that men really like me because, I got the sauce. Everybody wants to be on my team. Like, and that was just not the case. It was just not the case. It was not the case. And it got me into a lot of emotional heartbreak. And also I became emotionally tied to people that I had no business being tied to. Like I was way too invested in their problems and trying to figure out solutions when these people, they're grown. They could have these men, let me be very clear, these men, they could have figured out their own issues. They didn't need my little 26, 27-year-old mind to help them come up with something. You know what I mean? Like they just didn't. So I had to be honest with myself and reflect on myself of, actually, I don't want to be with a man that has all these issues and stuff and hasn't done the work to like go seek help. You shouldn't be looking at me to help fix your problems and your life issues and all these things. Go seek help first and then come to me like, hey, this is what I went through. Now what I've recognized is like being able to have open dialogue with someone who has had past issues or maybe has had childhood trauma or has had to overcome things. But again, when we were talking about the healing journey last week, that's a portion of their story. And now they've already implemented the tools needed to now when they're coming to me and talking to me about it, it's just like, hey, this is what I've been through. This is how I overcame it. This is where I am now. This is where my life is going. It's a very different conversation. But yeah, a lot of men, especially nowadays, they just want a friend and not in the like BFF type way. They just want to like literally dump and talk and just regurgitate whatever they can. And I think it is, we use the word narcissistic, I think, a little too loosely as a society now, but I think it definitely does have certain attachment styles that are not healthy. And as women, because we are emotional creatures and we're naturally nurturers, it's like, oh, no. But that's dangerous. Like, being transparent, that's very dangerous territory to be in, to think that you can... That's just because someone, again, is having open dialogue with you, that they mean to be with you long term. They're just simply using you, not for nothing, as a doormat to an extent, wiping their feet, trying to come into the house, seeing if it's been swept clean. Like, honestly, truly, when we get down to it. But that's just my perspective on it. I think that, it comes with the journey. And I think we all have to go on that journey to an extent. It's just about being honest with yourself while you're on it.
Okay, we're good. Great. Let's go on to the second question. The second question is, let's see. Now, this is much like the fourth question last week, but it's just a little different. But we don't have to spend a whole bunch of time on it, because we did spend a lot of time on that last week. But this one is, what do you think about sex before marriage? What is your view or perspective concerning sex before marriage?
So can I start this one off? I would love to point out the fact, and I'm going to thank you, Gloria, for making a statement that you just made in the last question, which is you found yourself being emotionally attached just through talking words. So I think emotional attachment can come in many forms and by many ways, and sex is not the only one. I think that sex before marriage I think it's a good thing. Point blank, period. I do. I think it allows you both to explore the relationship a little deeper, or a little further. I'll say a little further, not deeper. Because sex doesn't always mean a deep connection to me. I don't think that dating someone equals sex all the time. I don't think that just like, oh, we went out for coffee and then we just go have sex just because, and we just met like 2 days ago. Like, as I said last week, there is a responsible way to go about these things. If you have been dating someone, we'll say courting someone for a year or two, and you know that this is a serious possibility that you could be with this person, why not? Again, we are consenting adults. And you might learn some stuff that'll say, oh, never mind. So I think there is important information in sex before marriage.
I guess I'll go next. This is one of those questions for me where it's like, I think it really, really depends on someone's personal journey. So I can only speak for myself. I feel like sex before marriage, I don't think it's necessary, but I think that it is important to talk about if you are specifically, as Lori said, courting someone. Like if you are being courted. Now, if you're just out here dating, again, being responsible. We talked about that last week. Not going to go into that this week. I want to specifically focus on like being courted. Like this is your person. Y'all talked about marriage. Y'all are on the same life plan. You've had all the big kind of conversations, and maybe it's still growing. Y'all might have only been dating for like 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, a year, whatever. But the conversations are being had to where you both understand like there's a level of exclusivity and seriousness. If Tom, Dick, or Harry come down the street, you not like, oh, bye. Let me go see one of them, right? Like there's a level of commitment there. I think more than the physical act of sex before marriage, the conversation about sex has to happen before marriage, which is why I don't necessarily think that the physical act has to happen, because just like we said last week, anything can be taught. Anything can be taught, right? But I think it's important to know your partner's preferences, to know their relationship with sex, to know, are they open? We talk about open dialogue. This is a big part of open dialogue. Your sexual health. Have you ever, as a woman, have you ever been pregnant before? Are you able to get pregnant? All of the conversations about sex, I think, need to happen before marriage. And inadvertently, not for nothing, you probably will have sex before marriage once those conversations start happening. Because now that these conversations are happening, to Lori's point, you're exploring more, right? Maybe you've introduced a certain fetish or something that I might have had an idea about, but I've never actually had a partner or had the courage or felt safe enough to do. But now that I'm with you, we can explore that. So I do think that more important than the physical act of having sex, I think that the conversations, plural, around sex have to happen before marriage, because there's way too many people that get married and then they've waited and now they're on their wedding night and it's like, wow, absolutely not. This is forever. Now you got to get marital counseling. You know what I mean? Because this is now such a big to-do, unfortunately, because sex is a bigger part of marriage. It's one of the things. No, it's not always the most important thing, as Anvita talked about last week. There are other things that then become priority, but it is still intimacy. Physical intimacy is still a huge part of marriage. Like, you want your man to desire you and vice versa. Like, at the end of the day, we can't negate that. But I said all that to say, while I don't think it's necessary to have before marriage, the physical part, I do think that the conversations are important to have. And I do think that naturally, just being honest, that the conversations can lead to the physical act of having sex before marriage.
Let me just throw out there, I don't think it's necessary to, I don't know if I said this, but I don't think it's necessary.
Did she freeze?
Uh-oh, I think Lori froze.
Frozen. Yeah. She
Okay,
is.
so Lori's frozen, not me.
Okay.
No, Christina, you're good.
No.
Sorry.
Christina, you can go ahead till Lori comes back, because she might bleep out sometimes when it's frozen that long. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So go ahead, and when she comes back on, we'll get her.
Okay, but pretty much they say my thoughts as well, as far as it's not necessary, but definitely the conversations need to be there before marriage. I know we're talking about sex for financial as well. Like, those are conversations that you need to have before getting married. It's important to not be out here and just letting every Tom, Dick, and Harry, get a taste, but committed relationship where y'all already established, like, yes, we are courting to, we both have the desire to get married, and you are my person at this point. So let's explore this more and, have those tough conversations about sex and, like, well, not necessarily likes and dislikes, but however the conversation flows with it, to learn each other more. If it happens before marriage, it happens. But as Gloria was saying, it's not necessary to be done before marriage.
Lori, you want to go ahead and finish your statement before you froze?
I was just saying, I don't think it's necessary to have sex before marriage. I just think if you do it before marriage, then it's not like the end of the world or the end of the relationship or everything is doomed now. That was it. So I think either way, whatever you both decide together is the trajectory of the relationship. That's what you both should do.
And that was the thing I was going to ask if you, because if it's a couple and they make a joint decision that they are not going to, that they want to wait until the marriage, then that is their decision to make as a couple.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there is there's a wonderful thing happening online and all, I guess, throughout, at least I'll say the United States, I don't know, about consent. And to me, that's a part of consent. You have to have informed consent. So if you are both saying this is what we are going to do, then that's what you both do.
Good deal. Tina, do you have anything? I see you're taking notes.
Oh, I be listening intensely, but I know because I'm just thinking about all of the religious people getting triggered, right? Just being honest. We just go, okay. And I know they're getting triggered. And it's because I can, like last week there were scriptures thrown up. And so for the people who are of faith, in the faith, you have to do an exhaustive study on this topic, because I know people like, well, they just out here having sex, because we still have that ideology from the renewed covenant, the New Testament, where they think fornication is sex before marriage. But if you are a good biblical student and you actually take the time to study, you find out that that word does not mean that. And when you study, because I restudied that, you have to be careful that you are not studying different commentators' biased opinion. Right? So those of you who like to read blogs and stuff like that, you're going to encounter that as you study. But if you are mature, you're going to learn how to study the word and find it in the front part of the book called the Torah. And you're going to be surprised at the sex laws that is stated, who you can and cannot have sex with. And there is no biblical law in the front of the book that states that. And so, like we were talking behind the scenes, we know culturally that it was a practice to abstain. Yet the men were having sex anyway. And I have a real problem with Jacob, because Jacob was out there getting down with prostitutes. And I was like, wait a minute. Why somebody had to trick him into through a prostitute, right? So we know that men were having sex, but before marriage, with the intention to marry, right? And so we want to talk about really quickly, because I can feel the we want to talk about really quickly that back then there were no contraceptives. There was no way for a woman, to shield herself from getting pregnant. And with a lot of the ways that the men thought, I'm not going to go into deep biblical studies, it was really safe for a woman to have sex inside of a marriage covenant with a ketubah. All right, because running around being a single mother was not it back then.
Right.
Okay, and so you had safety inside of a marriage and with the ketubah, a marriage contract that gave you everything that you desire to have.
Correct.
And so that's what I want to say as you are listening, because it was a cultural practice, and I always teach culture can change and evolve. Torah, the Bible, the words of the Most High does not. So
Right.
culture evolve, culture changes with time. Now,
Correct.
and I'm gonna leave it alone because I know, people will come to me like, what? If you don't study and you just want to, and you have your own opinion that you should abstain, that's your personal conviction. But
Correct.
when you're using biblical scriptures, you have to rightly divide the word correctly in its Hebraic sense, not in the Christian way that some of us have been taught, but from an Hebraic cultural standpoint, and then get to 2026. What do we do now that our culture has shifted, right? And how do we handle ourselves concerning sex?
Mhm.
Okay, just for the public. Just for
And
the
that and that is so good because that's the thing that we have to go to. So bottom line, because I'm just a really clear black and white person. Does the Torah say? Because Father Yah, there's a whole phrase for you do not have sex before marriage. He could have said that, but that is nowhere in the Torah, because there was a culture of the protocol and what would happen concerning a young man and a young lady falling in love and wanting to get married, because we know there that they weren't people that was a great point, Christina, to bring out, that we see Yehuda going to a prostitute, and she turned out to be, I mean, it turned out to be his daughter-in-law, but the way that father had it rigged, and that was absolutely a Yahweh thing, because she ended up restoring his bloodline, and that bloodline had to be restored because Mashiach had to come from that bloodline. So she ended up restoring, even though she sat like in the position of this. But we do see one of the sons of Yaakov going
Mhm.
and feeling like he needed to be comforted after his wife died. So, those are things that, we see in the scripture, but you have to go back to the governing laws, the front of the book, to see what Father Yahweh said. What does the Most High say? Because anything, and I'm absolutely um, down with what you said about commentaries and people's thoughts, ulterior motives. You're dealing with people's brokenness, people's problems. You're dealing with all kind of junk in their commentaries. So commentary should be commentary.
Yeah.
Period. Comments. That's the real word of commentary. Comments. Okay, Lori.
Exactly. Comments. It's a comment. This is your opinion. Weigh the opinion against the Torah. Which one should weigh more? The Torah. But yes, thank you, Christina, for bringing that out. So two things came to mind as you were speaking. One thing is that the desire for women not to have sex was not just a cultural thing. It wasn't a one type of people thing. There are still honor killings in cultures today. If a girl has sex before marriage, they will kill her. And in fact, yeah, that happens more regularly than we care to admit today. So it's not just even the Hebrew culture or the Christian culture. No, it's a man woman thing. It is a human thing. I won't go too much further on that, but that was just to say it's kind of across the board that women are not, quote unquote, allowed to have sex before marriage. Okay, so on the other side of that, I was thinking the fact that Judah went to what he thought was a prostitute, turned out to be his daughter-in-law, restored the bloodline. That restoration of the bloodline for Messiah, for Yeshua, the Messiah to come through, that lets us know how important we are. So we can't just, any and everybody. It's your body is not meant for any and everybody. It's just not. And please don't get me wrong. If anybody listening, hear my words now. I will never advocate for giving it up to any and everybody. Never will I advocate for that. It's not healthy. It's not good for your body. It's not good for your mental space. It's not good. But I am also not an advocate of degrading someone for having sex outside of marriage. So, yeah. Judah and his daughter-in-law, eventually we got Messiah. We are all, I'll say, important on the spectrum of sexuality and what happens after that. I'll stop there.
Just really quickly, I think it's a great piece of the conversation when we're talking about sex before marriage. And the way I personally like to think of it as abstaining from anything, right? Like some people work out, some people don't work out. Some people work out and some people work out even harder. Some people do hot yoga, some people do cycling, some people run marathons, some people strength train. So just like anything else, sex is on a spectrum. And I think it's very important, again, going back to knowing yourself. Just, I'll say transparently, if I know that having sex for me makes me emotionally cling to someone to where things are passing me by. This person is over here doing it. I'm just passenger princess. Whoop-de-doo. You be a drug dealer. Okay. And I'm just, oh yeah, get the money. Because I'm not thinking straight, right? I'm not thinking straight because I am having sex with you. This is my own testimony, my own experience, right? I now have to take a step back and say, whoa, when you have sex with men, you don't be putting all your P's and Q's together, babe. A lot of stuff goes by. And then you find yourself in situations. And if you were thinking I'm not going to say it that way. If you were thinking correctly with your brain and not with your body parts, because our body parts are hormones, we're very, all is la, 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 la. It's a very real thing. It's a very real experience. It's a very real rose-colored glasses that goes over, I'll just say for myself, when that happens. So I had to learn, hey, it's not that I just can't have sex with anybody. Babe, I can't have sex. I have to take myself out of the equation physically so that way I can see what I need to see. I can really have open dialogue. I can go on dates without it being a sexual ending at the end. I can have fun without thinking about, oh, is this man going to want to sleep with me? And that open dialogue part for me came from me being very honest, saying, hey, like, I think you're cute, but I'm not having sex with you. Just want to let you know. Like, I'm not having sex. I'm just being that candid. Hey, like, I just want to let you know I'm not having sex with you. And a lot of men will be like, oh, it takes them by surprise. Like, oh, because yeah, I'm thinking about it too, babe. We're human. Okay, we're human. I think you're attractive. You think I'm attractive. It's going to come up at some point because we're also a very sexually open culture, right? A lot of people are expecting that at the end. It's just, it is what it is. So I said all that to say, I think the more honest we are, and I really think that truth, having truth and honesty in your life really illuminates the dark spaces where the enemy, the adversary, these spirits, these things, these entities, these people too, can come into your life and just sneak in and make you feel, can make someone feel like they are less than because they do have sex before marriage. When I think if you illuminate the parts of your life that you don't want to talk about, those dark things of like, hey, you like to have sex. That's okay. Everybody likes to have sex. I don't know not one person on this earth that does not enjoy being pleasured or pleased, even when it comes down to eating a piece of cake, right? It's the same little, come on, science, Lori. It's the same little, I'm sure the same little dopamine.
Dopamine.
Okay.
Yes.
See, I knew. I have smart cousins. So like, yeah, like it's the same dopamine hit you get, right? So it's like you're just because you desire sex does not mean that you are less than someone who you think isn't desiring sex. They just have discipline. Or maybe they're abstaining for a different reason. So I said all that to say, I think it's important to know yourself because some people, like alcohol doesn't bother me, but I have friends that when they go on dates, they don't drink. They don't have that first drink. They don't have any type of alcohol when they're with men because one lemon drop turns to 5 lemon drops. Now their whole personality coming out. And instead of being reserved, now they sitting there crying at the bar on this first date. So I think sex, like anything else, you have to know what your moderations are and where you are in your journey. Now, gratefully, I'm not where that extreme version of myself where I was before, but I had to get to a place where I was honest with myself that, hey, Gloria, based on your healing journey, where you are, babe, you can't, it's not productive for you. It's not producing good fruit for you. Take a step back. And it's okay to be honest with yourself and say, hey, I need to take a step back, or, hey, I'm ready. If you're ready, responsibly go for it, like be open to the possibilities, but it's important for you to be honest. That honesty factor, that truth factor when it comes to sex before marriage, I think we talk about being ridiculed in the punishment side, but we don't talk about being honest. We don't talk about that inner work that you have to do first to have responsible sexual relationships.
Can I throw this out there real quick?
Oh,
sorry. Just on the heels of that, I think this is where transparency is an absolute must. It is absolutely necessary. Transparency with yourself. Maybe not necessarily transparent with everybody else, but if you pick one person to be transparent with, be transparent with yourself and say, hey, I can't have that first drink. Hey, I can't have sex with this person. Hey, I can't eat one cookie. I'm going to eat 12. Okay, I'm going to stop there.
I'm glad it was brought up about being honest and transparent with yourself because, if you know that sex before marriage is going to have you marrying this person and you don't need to be with them because it clouded your judgment, then, proceed with caution. Just don't do it. But again, it goes back to, as y'all was saying, to be honest with yourself, be transparent with yourself, knowing yourself well enough to be able to know that sex is going to cloud your judgment. This drink is going to cloud your judgment with getting to know that person. And you might see that, okay, I don't need to be with you because, XYZ is not going to work out. And if you didn't have sex with them, then, no love lost kind of thing. But for some, I know for me, at one point I had gotten to where it was like, if I went there and it didn't work out, kind of felt like some of me was lost. But still, proceed with caution. Sorry, still driving.
Those are all great. So good. A good point. So do y'all agree? Because my thing is just like with the thought of, and I'm gonna put this out there. I know people are gonna be like, is she crazy? Abortion. That I am pro-life and pro-choice. I am both. Because Father Yah never takes our choice away. But what we have to do as parents, and this is where we falter with our children, having these candid talks to teach them to make good decisions, and then trust that as you teach them growing up, you don't wait until they're 12 years old to talk to them about it. But as you could teach them and raise them in the right way, then you have to trust that they are going to make good life decisions. But you can't expect good life decisions from children who you haven't even spoken to about. All you said was, don't do it. It's going to hurt you in the long run. I mean, just don't do it. So when we talk about that, that's why I always think of abortion, pro-life, pro-choice. It's like you can't take somebody's autonomy away to make a decision on something. And then, but what you can do is teach the preciousness and the gift of life and bringing life into the world. That's what you do. You don't tell them, no, we're going to take you and chain you up and put you in jail and throw away the key if you have decide to have an abortion, especially if it's medically needed. So nothing in life, and we should teach our children that nothing in life should be cookie cutter. But there are variables, there's situations, it depends on the person, but it's all about Father Yah never takes our choice away. But what does he say? That Joshua says, choose life, choose this day, choose life. But we've got to teach that first. So it's so important for us to have those conversations, with children, with our children, so they will be making good life choices. And guess what? When they're of age and they start dating, they'll know, because they'll hear that voice in the back and they'll say, this is not a good, to thine own self be true. You know what? I will do well when I need to keep my faculties. So I'm gonna keep you at this position so that I can make a good choice. That's great. Thank you. All of those comments were wonderful. All of them. It's so important. And I think because in our church, our spiritual assemblies and communities, we lack teaching that. So I know people who was going to say, she is crazy talking about pro-life. Either you pro-life or you pro-choice. No. Because guess what? Father Yah is pro-life and pro-choice.
Surely.
He let you choose to take your journey all the way to the lake of fire. You will go all the way to the lake of fire. Absolutely. But he will not come and just take your choice away. He says, no, choose me. Here I am. Choose me. Okay, Lori, I'm sorry.
I refuse to go down this rabbit hole, but I think the term abortion is such a hot button phrase because we hear it politically all over the screens, TVs, cell phones, everything. And I think we, as a society, tend to think about it as in a patriarchal lens. I'm sorry to say it, but in a patriarchal lens. So getting an abortions mean you just been having sex. You just been having sex. And nobody ever considers all of the billions of things that can go wrong in a pregnancy. All of the things that can just happen, and it puts the mother's life at risk. Things that put the baby's life at risk. Nobody talks about the quality of life that a child may have if they are missing some faculties. The quality of life. So that whole pro-life versus pro-choice, that is a false comparison. False comparison. Because absolutely you can have both. And don't tell me you are pro-life. I'm going to get off my soapbox because I feel myself getting passionate. But don't tell me you are pro-life. And as soon as that baby is out, you're like, well, all right, my job is done. Okay, that's it. Nothing else. That baby can't eat. That baby can't live in a space with heat. That baby can't go to school. That baby can't put no shoes on their feet. Don't tell me you pro-life. You pro-control somebody else's body. You are pro-control someone else's body. That's what you are. Okay, I'm I'm done.
I was just going to say really quickly to add to that. I agree. I am very much so pro-choice. Like I am unapologetically pro-choice. As much as I am spiritually inclined and I love the creator and I love people and I'm very much so pro-choice. And forget the medical part. I'm pro-choice if you think that it's not a good decision for you to have a baby. Like if you don't think that it's a good decision for you as a woman to become a mother at this point in time in your life. Again, we're talking about you've had sex responsibly, not talking about the very small percentage of people that are just out here being like not being responsible. I'm talking about the people that are being responsible and they decide themselves like, hey, oops, now I'm pregnant. Oops, yeah, no, I'm not ready to be a mother. And I say that because I feel like we put so much emphasis on pregnancy and the journey and becoming a mother, and we don't place enough emphasis on the journey of life. That children do not stay children; they become adults, and you still have to parent them as they become adults and as they go through all these phases. I am still being parented by my mother and my dad. I am still watching my mother and my dad being parented by their parents. And their parents are in their 90s and their 70s. And they're still getting wisdom from them. You get what I'm saying? So it's a lifelong commitment. And then on top of that, who are you partnering with to have this baby? Sometimes you realize, ooh, had one too many lemon drops. This man would not be a great father. Amazing one night stand. Amazing frolicking around the world with him, going on trips, going on vacations. He would be a horrible father, right? And I think it's so important. That element of the conversation is never discussed when we talk about abortions and pro-choice. It's never discussed about the partner, because the responsibility by default is all on the woman. It's on her body, it's on her mind, it's on her physical capability to raise a child, financially to raise a child, because the father could never be around, right? And so I will too get off my soapbox on that because, like Lori, I have a lot to say on the subject, but I'm very much so, let it be known to the world on this live, to everybody hearing, like I'm very much so pro-choice, medically or not medically, like unapologetically. I think that it's important that women are able to decide if they're able to have babies, because there are too many babies out here that no longer have mothers because their mothers were not mentally capable to keep them. And they turn to drugs, they turn to, unfortunately, suicide. So many different things that people don't talk about, because motherhood is not an easy journey, especially if you have to do it by yourself. So, yeah.
Not to mention, there had to be some pregnant women in all of them camps that the Most High said, kill them all. The Most High said, kill them all. He killed some babies. So,
yeah, and
he killed firstborns.
Proof to that is, and I'm not going to stay on that because we're going to go into the next question, but proof to that is when the Amalekites, Saul was told to completely annihilate them, that king Ahaz, his wife was pregnant. He was supposed to kill her. That child ended up being who? Haman, who came back and then had a huge vendetta during the time of Hadassah or Esther.
Yeah.
So, and tried to completely annihilate all of Israel during his time. So, but if King Saul had done what the Most High told him to do, he would have killed a pregnant woman because the queen was pregnant at that time. So that's absolutely true. But Casina, I don't know if you wanted to chime in on this, and not about the abortion or pro-life or pro-choice. I just kind of brought that out because it was like we were discussing the other subject. But do you want to chime in anything you have to say before we go to the next question?
I was just going to say that yeah, that is part of the discussion that would need to be had in, the whole sex before marriage discussion with your partner as to what happens if y'all get pregnant early or after marriage, and kids in general. Like, do you want kids? Because I've had situations where getting to know someone, I've told them I don't have kids, not thinking about having kids, probably don't want kids. And his first thing is, oh, I'll give you a baby. I'll put a baby in you. I didn't ask you to do that. I didn't say anything about wanting you to put a baby in me. So let's not do that. But it's, again, open discussion that needs to be had. That's all I'm going to say. Because the whole abortion, pro-choice and things, that, yeah, I'm not going to go on that soapbox.
Run. That's all I have to say. Run. So the third question. What do the words male and man, it should be male and man, mean to you? Male and man.
Um, I'll say that male would be gender. Man is more so of a maturity aspect because, like, all men are males, but not all males are men. Depending on, for me, in my opinion, it's a maturity aspect because you have some grown men in their 60s who still act like they're in their 20s, and I'm not inclined to call you a man. Like, a man is responsible and productive. He's about business. He's not out here just playing around. Whereas a male, he's just out here. He has the anatomy that makes him a male.
So I'll say I think this is not to offend anyone or anyone's answer coming up at whatsoever, but I think that this question is one of those that is bordering on pointless. I think that it has become a topic since the whole manosphere, red pill, broadcast type joint has, kind of taken over social media because you already know science. It's a dude. He has an XY. He has a Y chromosome. He has a penis. That's what that means. A man, a male, whatever. If you are a mature adult, that's a completely different conversation. But man and male both mean a certain anatomy part, a certain genetic profile, period, point blank. Whether, I guess it seems like a pointless question for everybody in the world who's asking that question. Like, why? What do you do with that information afterward? Are you going to tailor yourself to that now, or are you going to continue being who you were before you figured out what other people think a man or a male is? So I'll leave it there.
I will say, to Lori's point, I do too think it's a little pointless, but for the sake of the conversation, I think this question is more posed culturally, in the space of like where we just are society, like socially as a people when it comes to dating. And I think that, again, male, to Christina's point, is anatomy, like male, female. He's a dude, he has a penis, he's a guy, he's a bro, right? But I think colloquially and socially, a man is seen as a protector, a man is seen as a provider, a man is seen as someone who has leadership qualities. And I think for all intents and purposes, most women, even if they don't admit it, look for these character traits that our society has quote unquote deemed a man to be. Also, if we bring in the spiritual aspect of it, there are roles and requirements and responsibilities that a quote unquote man has with the Most High versus a female has with the Most High, right? And so I do think that the conversation has to be had in protected spaces, but I do think to Lori's point that when it's in a space that that it's not going to be well received, it is a point that it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary because people oftentimes are bringing up this question to argue. They're bringing up this question to get stuff off their chest. But I think just socially and culturally, when we think of a man, we think of like the phrase, that's a good man, Savannah. When you think of that's a good man, Savannah, you think of a man that is a protector. He takes care of his family. He takes care of his house. And again, not from actually the movie of the point in context in which she was saying that statement, but how just culturally we've taken that and ran with the fact of like a man is someone who is an upstanding citizen. At the end of the day, he's someone that takes care of his family. He's someone, and again, these are cultural norms that I believe have been instilled to us from the whole nuclear family era of the 50s and the 60s of, what white suburbia looked like when you had a father in the home. And I think that father and manhood was closely tied together, but I think it's not as closely tied together as it is today versus motherhood and womanhood still being closely tied together, if that makes sense.
It does. That's great. That's good. I want to deal with a couple of the statements that are made here, and she may be off already. And I just want everybody to understand that we are on here, having a conversation about thoughts and views, perspectives, as we did with the men, and we are doing now with the women. This one, finding Nashima. So she seems to be very, is offended by the conversation and is saying it's bad advice. So finding Nashima, we're not giving anybody advice. What we're doing is having conversation. So you bring up Deuteronomy 22. She's probably already off. And I'm sorry, but I'm just going to call it as I see it. When you have a very narrow-minded view on Scripture and not know Scripture as you should, Deuteronomy 22 has nothing to do with the conversation that we are having here. So I'm going to ask you, Finding Nashima, to go back and study, come back and tell us where in the Torah, because this is talking about, it starts out Deuteronomy 22:13, when any man takes a wife and shall go into her and shall hate her. This is a whole nother topic. It has nothing to do with this topic. And this is what Christina was bringing out earlier. See, when we are novice in understanding of the word, we will take word out of the Torah, out of context, to try to justify what we think, what we're believing. But we are not, number one, giving advice. We are having a conversation. So this conversation is among people, women now, as it was with men, giving their perspective on these topics. So if you've gone off, that's absolutely fine. This is what Christianity and some of the Hebrew believers, this is what we do. We completely tune out when somebody doesn't say something that we think is correct. So I want you to know that Deuteronomy 22 has nothing to do with this. And I don't know why you would even bring that up. And if we're talking about the understanding of, if you're relating to the discussion, us making statements concerning pro-life, pro-choice, we are not negating the sanctity and the wonderful gift that Father God has given as life. But what we are doing is having a conversation that nothing is cookie cutter. Nothing's cookie cutter. And there are many times when situations where the mother's life has been at risk and there had to be a choice made, then what does it become? It becomes choice. So that's just on a medical level, medical standpoint. But I'm not going to belabor that anymore. I understand that people are going to have different thoughts, but we are having a conversation. We are not giving advice.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I just wanted to add to that too, because this is why you're gonna get tired of me hearing say this. This is why I advocate for mental health. Because what happens is that we all have backgrounds, okay, that affect the way we view our faith and scriptures. We also have backgrounds that we were taught to be a certain way because that is what has been passed down. So when we talk about having conversations, we have to be in the mindset to listen to other people's perspectives. Now, you can go and judge privately, but when you're sitting down amongst your fellow sisters or brothers in the faith, you have to put your emotions like in check so you can listen to understand instead of listening for key words so that you can respond. And you can tell when our nervous system is overwhelmed, because if we have a strong personal conviction about something already and we hear people saying the opposite, that is when we get into like a fight or flight mode and say, but, however, that's the reason why I brought up, because I know this is called the righteous view. And then people, we can mirror righteousness. Like, we have to look at things and rightly divide the perspectives that we're giving. And we are going to walk away with our own personal convictions. So if you want to know my advice, you will ask me personally. Right? We're on a forum. You didn't hear me or Avia say, this is what you should do concerning sex. You did not hear that, but you listened to respond instead of listening to understand everyone's perspective. Whether you agree or not, we're listening to understand, because as elder women, we don't listen to our younger people, our children. We talk at them. We don't talk to them, to have a conversation and to make a safe space where our children can say what they are feeling, whether we as parents agree or not. So wisdom says, listen, understand, put yourself in these young women's shoes in 2026, not in 20 AD, but in 2026. For those of us who believe that we are from the 12 tribes, we know that we are scattered, we are away from the land, we are away from understanding the covenant. We out here just doing the best we can with the information that we have. Also, we live in a very sexually overcharged culture. So, how do we address this issue or these issues with our young women who live here in the same culture that we do. Okay. And so we want to hear them. We want them to get out their perspective. So, as the elders, we can go back and say, now we have heard the young women's perspectives. Now, when the young women come to us personally to ask us personally for advice, now we are equipped to answer them and to give them advice based on what we have heard them say. That is the point of this podcast. And when you are in your congregations, when you are sitting in your assemblies, leaders don't give the space to have these conversations. So we are trying to figure out how to create a space for young people to have these hard, candid conversations. Because guess who they talking with? Their peers who don't know nothing, just like they don't. And they coming up with the solutions the best way that they can, because the elders are too religious. The elders are passing down bad information, or the elders out having sex as much as the young women. So
Say
we
that.
are back listening, so that we as women, when the young women come to us, we could be like, okay, we know what's going on out there. We know how y'all feel.
How you feel?
Let's talk.
Correct.
Because if you ask me and you want to know my advice, I already told the women, I believe that having sex is this exchange of energy and power.
Correct.
If we out here having sex and we think that 98% of us is crazy, then laying down having sex with another crazy person, exchanging energy and power, is going to do what? But it's their decision. It's not my decision. It's my decision as an elder to give that advice. To
Right.
say, you're exchanging power, honey, and you lay it down with mentally unhealthy people. Think about that and be
Yes.
responsible. That's what the job of the elders do. So I am not going to say that we are giving blasphemous advice. I'm saying we are listening and we are trying to understand our young people. That's all we're trying to do, and to give them space to talk.
To talk. And you know what? I want you to go and research the word blaspheme, blasphemy, because half of the church and the Hebrew community does not have that word correct in its interpretation and definition. So that's my challenge to you, finding Neshima. But to go back and research that word blasphemy, because as Christina said, we have the obligation as the elders to listen and to hear. And this is why our younger women don't want to come to a lot of the elders, because of this rhetoric right here. Because we're so engulfed and ingrained in our thought processes, don't do, don't do, don't do, don't do, that we're not even hearing what our younger generation is saying. Let's just sit back and listen. Can we do that? Let's sit back and listen. Lori and then Gloria, I know y'all wanted to say something. I'm gonna be quiet.
So I I appreciate all that has gone on thus far, and especially the comments. I'm one for dissenting opinions. So I just wanted to read out a small part of what the first comment, which says, to reduce the Most High's reasoning to human faulty logic is mind-blowing. My statement to that is, I think we conflate the Most High's reasoning and human morality. We put those two together like they're the same thing. How many times do we see or have we heard that his ways are greater than our ways? We don't understand why the lady on Maury has 13 kids by 16 baby daddies. We don't know why. But in 2,000 years, will we know why? We could. We might. The lineage of our Messiah is filled with people who were not, quote unquote, married. They had sex outside of marriage. The lineage of the Messiah is filled with people who had sex outside of marriage. And the Messiah was a result of all of that. Okay. And then my last point, and I'm going to give it to Gloria. Deuteronomy chapter 22. I must point you, if you're there or if you watch this later, point you to verse 21. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but just a piece of it says, if the girl is found not to be a maiden, then they shall bring her out of her father's house, and they'll stone her because she has done wickedness in Israel to whore in her father's house. All right. So the word whore is often mistranslated to whore when it should be idolatry. Second point on that is, if a woman was married, her husband went to war and he died, she goes back to her father's house. She is not a virgin. Her father agrees to give her hand to another man. Should that other man expect her to be a virgin? No, that wasn't part of the contract. This is about contract. A ketubah, a marriage covenant, a marriage vow is about contractual agreements. Both parties have to agree. If a man says, I want a virgin, I want a maiden, I want a woman who has never slept with a man, I want that and that only, he gets to say that. Okay, roger that. Put that in the contract. Her father says, okay, roger that. If she's not, then they have broken the agreement. Then she's stoned. But if that is not a part of the agreement, she's not stoned. If it is not a part of the marriage ketubah, the wedding vows, that the wife is to be a virgin, if it's not in there, then it's not in there. And I'll yield.
Okay, yield.
Point, Lori. Excellent point. You did that. Absolutely. I'm sorry, Lori.
No, absolutely. And for me, I'm gonna just always bring it back to like reality, which is at the end of the day, as young women, it is very important that safe spaces are created for us to have conversations about sex, because not for nothing, the safe spaces are created for men. My son, he's 8. I already know that he's going to have an easygoing sexual journey, experience, awakening, blah, 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 as a man, just by his gender and by what society says he's allowed to do when having sex. I think the persecution of women in us having sex before marriage, that same weight of quote unquote death spiritually and therefore physically is not placed on men. My male friends that are also of spiritual nature and have religious blah, 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 they never think about sex as a part of, oh, I can't do that. Otherwise, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna be off into, like, the Most High is never gonna want me to be in the kingdom or anything like that. That they're thinking about other things that qualify them as a husband. So I think for us to place our anatomy, our pleasure, as the one sole thing that qualifies us for marriage is insane. It's insane. And it's very, very harmful. And I'm very passionate about this because I came from this lifestyle of thinking that I had to be sexually pure in order to receive the man that God has for me, and la, 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 and life will be roses. Okay, well, I did everything right. My first husband, I was a virgin. Okay, I didn't have my first baby until 4 years of us being married. But guess what? He still ended up having an affair, as us being spiritual leaders in the church. So now what do you do? What as elders, what do you say to that young woman who quote unquote did everything right? She did everything. You're using Deuteronomy 22. You're saying all la. She followed your playbook, but it still ended up, I still became a single mother. What do you do? So I think it's very important, and it's a dangerous, dangerous ideology to have. And that's just my testimony, right? Like I'm very honest, and I'm very healed, and I'm very transparent in my journey, because not for nothing, there was a point in time where I couldn't be. Where me talking about certain things like this, I was persecuted in places where I was supposed to be rescued and kept in . So getting off that soapbox, I just think it's a very dangerous thing. And I think about how many young women don't have the safe space to talk about sex, but the young men do. So the young men become light years ahead sexually than the young women. And back to Miss Christina's point, there's that power dynamic. Now it's not an equally yoked power exchange, because as a woman, I don't know what an orgasm is. I don't even know what it's supposed to feel like. I don't know what a man touching me is supposed to feel like. I don't even know that it's okay for me to feel these feelings, because they're science. It's natural. It's a natural reaction. You're supposed to feel pleasure. If you don't, you should go get checked out, because that's not normal. Or you might have to Miss Christina's point, mentally, you need to go get checked out, because maybe you've placed a blockage there to where you think pleasure is bad. And so now every time you are being pleased or blah, 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 you're crying, you're having this huge emotional upheaval because you've been told that this is bad. And we don't talk about, after you say I do, after all these things have been put into your head for decades, sometimes, right? Once you say I do and you get into your marriage bed, those thoughts don't go away. Those thoughts stay. You were told that sex is bad. You were told that pleasure is bad. Overnight, that doesn't go away just because now you're married. Now you have to do the work to, now I'm with this man, this is my husband, but I was taught that pleasure is bad. So now when I orgasm, I still feel bad. What does that do? Right? So there's so much more conversations, back to that plural word of conversations, that has to happen when we talk about sex. It's not just the physical part. We do more damage to young women when we penalize them about sex before marriage. And when we use the Torah as a weapon and not as a comfort to them, you're not teaching them to go to the word of God. You're teaching them to fear it. And that is a dangerous, dangerous recipe when it comes to sex before marriage. And that's all I got to say, because that pierces my heart, because I've experienced it firsthand. And it was not a good journey to have to go through to do that unraveling, because I had older women in my life. And also, what I was going to say to Lori's point is, it's my last point, because I know we have other questions, is that it's very important that people mind their business, because at the end of the day, these are now consenting adults, right? We're not talking about teenagers. We're talking about, I'm 30. I'll be 31 in February. I have a whole child, whole business, consenting adults, right? I pay taxes. So I think it's very important that spiritual leaders, elders, whomever, that there are boundaries put in place to where you should not be knowing or trying to dig into someone's personal sexual history if that is not brought to you as a, hey, I'm going through this because of la, 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 la. And even then, I think there's a maturity that comes in as a leader where you need to listen in between the conversation. What things aren't being said? Okay, this woman is promiscuous. She's having a bunch of sex. Maybe the root is childhood trauma because she was touched. She was molested. Let's talk about that. Let's not talk about how she keeps having sex, because if we deal with the root, next thing you know, Miss Girl, 6 months from now, she's not going to have sex with nobody, because you've helped her through the root. So we don't talk about that. We just talk about, oh, she out here having sex, la, la, la. And you're in somebody's personal business when you should be in your own sexual personal business. And you're not. You're worried about everyone else's. So anyway, that's all I have to say on that. I know I came back in, but that's all I got to say about that.
Oh my God. And can I just say, I hate with every fiber of my being how it goes from us talking about having sex outside of marriage to promiscuity. Sex outside of marriage is not equivalent to promiscuity. Promiscuity is any and everybody. That's not always the case. That's not, okay, I'm gonna stop. Yep. Next question. No.
Can I just say, I'm glad we are having this conversation, because quite frankly, in my journey, I was sex before marriage in a consenting relationship that is to lead to marriage. You've had that discussion and believe that I'm your person, you're my person. I'm leaning more towards, yeah, okay, if it happens before marriage, it happens before marriage. But that whole purity culture kind of mindset still plays in my mind. As Gloria was saying, the thoughts don't go away of you waited, you did it right, and it's still there, of the thoughts that oh, I'm not supposed to experience this kind of pleasure. So I'm glad we are having this conversation.
Amen.
Good. Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much. And really, she's probably gone off. She said she's gonna log off, and that's fine. But we just want to, really be clear that we're not going to stop having these conversations because they make you feel uncomfortable. We're going to continue to have them because it's necessary for us as senior women, as leaders of assemblies, to be able, and as elder women with younger daughters and nieces and granddaughters, that we can talk and that they will be comfortable to come to us. And I'm going to tell you just really quickly, I thank the Most High that my daughter, who is here, and my niece, who is here, both always felt comfortable coming to me. Now, I know there's probably stuff that they have withheld from me, and that's fine. As long as they went to somebody who they trusted, where that was a safe space. But I'm thankful that they always felt like I was a safe space for them to come to, and that I didn't judge. Because the first thing I'm going to do is sit down and listen, because they have a perspective, and their perspective is coming from their experiences, their education, and understanding. But we don't get that if we don't listen. So, we're going to listen. So thank you, ladies. Thank you so much. And Casina, I guess she'll get back on. I know she's traveling. So the question number 4, what is something that is a challenge for you while in a relationship?
Lori keeps laughing at me. No, because I was just sitting over here. I was like, here we go, vulnerability. I think that one challenge for me is, again, oldest daughter, always had to do la 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 la. We talked about that last week, as far as Miss Christina mentioned, like asking for help. Now that I'm like over that hump, I think the biggest challenge that I've had to face while being in a relationship as of recently is trusting my partner, like trusting that what he's saying he means. So what I mean by that is trusting that he sees me for who I am and that I don't have to over explain. So this could look like today, for example, because not for nothing, I'm in a new relationship, which, yay, go dating journey. We were talking about, I was like, yeah, I'm a perfectionist. Like I wrote him like a whole little text message when we first started dating. I was like, these are 3 things to know about me. 3 character flaws that to know about me, right? Sometimes being too open and honest, people are like, he was like, okay, that's fine. Girl, like, I'ma still love you anyway. And I was like, hey, just want to let you know, right? So I said that to him. But today I was like, we were talking about something. I was like, I know, I'm just such a perfectionist. Like, I can't help it. And he was just like, I know. And it's okay. And I was like, oh, you know that? He was like, yes. So it's been a challenge for me to be seen so visibly without having to prove. There we go. That's the word I'm looking for. Without having to prove who I am. To just simply exist and be, and for that person to see me and not have to be like, oh, but this is who I am, but also this is who I am, but also, hey, this is who I am. For him to just be like, girl, I see you every day. I see exactly who you are, and trust that what he's seeing is accurate and that I don't have to then explain or over explain. So that has been a challenge, and not like a tug and pull, just something that I've like, oh, let me work on that. Let me not do that. So yeah. And I don't know what that's really called, but in so many words, I don't think I could just have one word for it. I feel like Miss Christina might have a word for it, but like That's all I got.
February. Okay. All right. Well, for me, trust. Period. Point blank. Trust. How much can I trust you? So I feel like we don't really talk about this particular thing much, but we as women are told and taught not to trust men from get-go by the men in our lives. We are taught that by the men in our lives. Don't trust them. All they want is sex. Don't trust them. Don't trust them. Don't trust them. Don't trust them. And then they come around and prove why they shouldn't be trusted, whoever, they may be. So, yeah, I definitely struggle with trusting a guy fully. Now, trust is a spectrum, obviously. Like if you say, "Hey, let's go to the movies," do I trust you to drive? Yeah, I've seen you drive. It's okay. It's fine. I don't want to drive, so that's cool. But do I trust you with my, deepest, darkest, saddest secret? No, probably not. Probably not. It's going to take, about 30 years to get there. So trust. And then, my other struggle is listening without a filter. So listening to what the person said as they said it. Of course, ask some follow-up questions if I need clarity, whatever. But I've found that I really do have to work at taking off my own personal filter when someone is speaking to me, or if I'm in a relationship, if someone's speaking to me about something, I can't get in my immediate feelings. I have to stop, listen for real, and think through what was just presented to me. So that's kind of what I struggle with.
Okay. So let's go on to our question number 5. And I think this is the last question of is it, Christina, the last question? I think it is the last question. And this is a big one. So it is submission. This word. What does that word submission mean to you? Does your partner have to agree? And is this a deal breaker? Is this a deal breaker?
Call on me. No. I've been thinking about this, y'all. I've been thinking about this for some time because this is a buzzword too, especially in the Hebrew community. Oh boy. So the word submission to me, in the context that we typically use it, I guess when it comes to relationship, is trust. That means trust. Submission means, do I trust you with my full everything life? I every time I go outside, nope, not even outside. I'm submissive to it now. Gravity. None of us is getting around that. Do I trust that if I walk off a cliff that I'll go down? Yes, I do. I trust that. Do I trust that when I put my foot down on the ground as I'm walking, that the ground will still be there? Yes. I am submissive. I'll say I am submissive to the physical world that we live in. I trust the physical world that we live in. When we talk about relationships and submission in relationships, it has also become conflated with, I think, gender roles, where it's always woman submits to man. because Shaul had the opinion that man is the head of woman. That was his opinion. Also his opinion that nobody should get married, which means nobody would have any babies. But I digress. Submission, I guess technically not, but anyway, to me, submission is, do I trust you with everything? It is not everything you say goes, or you are the end all be all. I personally do not believe that. No. So does my partner have to agree? I would say for me, yes, you have to understand what submission looks like and what it feels like. Therefore, you would understand my plight. You would understand what I would have to go through. And you yourself should be submissive too. Also, you yourself should be submissive also, the man, whoever that may be. Would it be a deal breaker if our definitions didn't align? Absolutely. Absolutely, it would be a deal breaker, because that's kind of going back to the very first question about open, was that first question, second, whatever, open dialogue. That's something that we really need to discuss, because if you have one definition of this word and I have a completely different definition, we have to figure out if our definitions can coexist and we both be happy and healthy. Can our definitions exist together and we are both happy and healthy together? So I'll pause there.
No, that's really good, Lori. I think for me, first and foremost, yes, it would be a deal breaker. It would be a deal breaker. Like, just straight up, it would be a deal breaker, because I think submission is such a weaponized word nowadays, similar to abortion. And I think that in that case, I would be listening very closely to a man's opinion on submission before I decided to entertain him again. Because everything you do based on your definition of that word is how you are going to show up and how you are going to inherently treat me in this world, right? So if a man thinks that submission means that I'm supposed to be a doormat, that I'm supposed to do all of it, it's not going to work. It's not going to work for me, because I know just me and my character and who I am as a person, I will never be able to conform to that fully. So there's no point in me entertaining that person. And that's okay, right? But for me, submission, the first two words I think of is humility and reciprocity when I think about submission. Humility in the sense of, are you able to humble yourself to one another? There are going to be times where I'm going to be right, you're going to be right. I'm going to be wrong, you're going to be wrong. I'm going to have the better idea, you're going to have the better idea. That is life. That is partnership. And also, I think sometimes on the reverse side of that, women that are quote unquote fully submitted to the idea of being a submissive wife run into the pain of their husbands being perfect, right? So when they do make a bad decision, when something does happen, now all of a sudden your husband ain't crap, he low down, he don't make good decisions, he this, that, and the third. So there is a horrible inverse to being this wholly submissive wife, right? Because now I hate you. I can't stand you. You don't make no good decisions, blah, 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 because now all of the weight of the family, the weight of the relationship is on the man. And that is not partnership. No business. If you look at marriage as a business opportunity, in a business, right? You have a CEO, you have a COO, you have a CFO, you have a board of trustees. There are checks and balances. And that's because no one thing can stand on its own. Even in spiritual assemblies, you have people in place. Even when in the kingdom of the Most High, all of us don't have the same gift. We all have different things. So when you take these buzzwords and apply them to the total sum of life, it makes more sense. But unfortunately, society lasers in on them places them in this one little box and says that a woman should be submissive to her husband in marriage, but she doesn't have to be submissive in sex. That's the parallel of the society we live in right now. You can be sexually free as a woman, but when it comes to marriage with a man, you need to be submissive. That is insane. It doesn't make sense. It goes against the very true nature of the two things, right? But that's what socially society is saying right now, right? And so for me, going back to the question with submission, humility, right? Humbling yourselves one to another, but then also reciprocity. It's a give and take. Maybe today I'm making dinner, tomorrow you making dinner. Maybe Wednesday, neither one of us making dinner. It was a rough Wednesday. We're going out to eat. We door dashing. Maybe today I'm doing the laundry this week. Next week you're doing laundry because I got to do things for the kids. Reciprocity. It's submitting. To me, submission is submitting to the common goals we have when we agreed to be in this relationship. When we agreed in our courting, again, open dialogue. What is the vision for this man's life? Can you submit to that? Can you humble yourself to that? Do you want to have reciprocity? Do you want to be reciprocal to that? If this man says every day I wake up at 5:30 in the morning and we are a gym family, we are fruitarians, we only eating fruit for the next 20 years, no reciprocity for that meeting. Because for me, I'm gonna have a Klondike bar on Friday. It's been a rough day. I might have a little glass of wine on Saturday. It's been a rough week. Kids, life, whatever. So I know for me, I'm not going to be able to reciprocate that lifestyle. I can support you. I cut up all the fruit. But I know that I cannot commit to that lifestyle. So I think it's very important as women that we understand what a man is saying when he says submission. Again, going back to those core values. Submission is a core value, no matter how you slice it. Because we too want our partners to be submissive to us, to our needs, to our desires, to our journeys, to our passions, to our purposes. We want our husbands to serve us, our partners, even if you don't desire marriage, maybe you desire long-term partnership. We want our partners to be submissive to us and to hear us. So I think a big part of submission is also active listening. Not just doing what you think your person needs or doing what you think they want, but truly listening to the conversation. So yeah, that's why for me, we would have to agree and it would be a deal breaker. I don't see a world in which I would be able to compromise on that word in that world point of view. And I think it's okay to have things that you are unwilling to compromise on because you find yourself in less heartbreak. And that's all I got to say.
Okay. All good points. For me, submission is well, I've heard it said before, like sub is under and then there's mission. So both of us need to be under the same mission. And again, as I said last week, I'm gonna mess this verse up again. Why do I keep doing that? How can two walk together unless they agree? So and this is also part of my healing journey of learning to say no and be able to say, yes, it would be a deal breaker if you trying to go left and I'm going right. So submission, it's important. It's us needing to be on the same page about our journey and where we're going with this relationship. If you are trying to dominate and you don't value my opinion, you're not trying to hear my opinion, you may ask it, but just you don't ever actually take my advice to heart, then yeah, that can be a problem. Like the relationship I'm in now, he values my opinion. He wants to know, like, hey, this is going on. What do you think about it? It's not just what he says goes. And that's one of the things that I do love and value about him. It's let's work together in a partnership to achieve a better life for ourselves as well as with each other.
That's great. That is good. And I'm going to tell you, one of the men had the same response when the panel of men were on, and he broke down the word, as Casina just did, submission, that we are both under, about fulfilling the mission, both of us. So that means that both of us have to be submitted or under the vision or the mission for the family to move forward and be prosperous and have good success, because that's what it's all about. And that what Yehoshua said. He said that you will be prosperous and have good success. So that is a great point.
I love how that word is broken down, and below, or I'm sorry, under the mission. Yeah, I love the way that's put.
Mhm,
However,
mhm,
that's not how it's used. That's not what it means when they say it.
mhm.
So dealing with the reality of the majority of what people mean when they say submissive is, you listen to me, what I say goes, on the last word. Um, I'm not to be preachy at all, but I'm gonna read Genesis chapter 1, verse 27. And Elohim created the man in his image. In the image of Elohim, he created him. Male and female, he created them. Them. He created them. Was Yeah. So it wasn't that one was above the other in any way. It wasn't that one was more important than the other. And I bring that up because of the existence of the opposite word,
Mhm.
submission, dominance. So when you come at me saying I am dominant over you, now we got to fight. I might lose, but we got to fight. Nah. Um, but to truly, for someone to say to another adult, I am dominant over you, that's kind of offensive. And to me, it's a manipulative tactic to say, be submissive, be submissive, be submissive. Because what you're really trying to say is, I'm dominant over you. I am dominant over you. I'm dominant over you. In what way? In what ways? And this kind of wraps back around to a point that Gloria made earlier about, um, oh, we were talking about male and man. And Gloria said, uh, oh, we think of like men is typically the provider, protector, um, those characteristics. And then I was sitting here thinking, have we not provided, meaning women? Have we not protected? Have we not had strong character? Have we not throughout history? So tell me what's so much more dominant about the male species than the female. My point is, neither is more important than the other. Your word is not more important than mine. My word is not more important than yours. We got to come together. It has to be a together. Unfortunately, that's what happened in the garden. We were literally broken apart. We no longer understood each other. We no longer understood that mission. I do love that. Under the mission. That is such a beautiful thing to say. We were no longer aligned. And my desire is just for us as men and women to be aligned. I'm not better than you are. You're not better than I am. At the end of the day, at judgment day, guess who's going to stand alone in front of the Most High? Me. Alone. Responsible for my choices. You alone. Responsible for your choices. Now, I get that there's a whole, also, again, we keep bringing this up. There's a whole cultural aspect where, in the scripture, where men were literally the providers. They had animals, they had land, they had, the means to provide for the household. Absolutely, I get that. I get that culturally, and I get, I guess, where we have come since then, if that makes sense. I feel like I'm rambling now, but my whole point was that we are adults. We are consenting adults. You are not above me. I am not above you. We're in this thing together. And I'm gonna stop there.
Just really quick.
Okay, go ahead, Gloria.
Go ahead.
The scripture, because it was brought up concerning what Shaul said concerning, male and female. So I know, Lori, you read 1 and 27, but in completing that 28, he goes on to say that be fruitful, increase, and fill the earth and subdue it. That was the mission for both of them, that they were to subdue the earth. They rule over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the heavens, over the creeping creatures. See, I've given you every plant that yields seed, the face of the earth, every tree that needs seed. He is now speaking to both male and female, giving them the mission on what they are what they're supposed to focus on now that they have been created and put on the earth. And it came to, and then at the end of 30, he says, and it came to be so. Now that's the Most High who has spoken it and given authority of male and female in the earth. But then there's something that happened, and I'm going to go to 3 and 3, Genesis 3, and we're going to look at I think it's 4 there it is, in 16. And this is where people say this is where Shaul is getting that from. So he says to the woman, he says, I greatly increase your sorrow, your conception, bring forth children. And in pain, your desire is for your husband, and he does rule over you. Now that word rule is mashal, as I think I spoke about this before. And the word mashal does mean to be over, to cover, to be in a position to bear up. So it's from the perspective of he is going to make sure, because let's go back to the historical historical fact of what happened and the position where Adam and Hava were. They were standing, Adam was standing right there next to Hava when the act was done, and when she took part in that fruit that the Nachash, or the serpent, had offered to her. Adam was not over on the other side of the garden. He was standing right there. So when Father brings this point out, and he does rule over you, this is a promise of protection over the woman. It's not meant to be that you're going to take this word and now make it oppressive. That's not what it was meant to be. It was not a statement of oppression, but it was a statement of protection, and that he is going to care for you. He's going to cover you. He's going to provide for you and shield you and guard you. So guess what? So that this does not happen again. So now he puts man in the position and says, you get on patrol, and you are supposed to make sure that whatever happens concerning this woman that I've given to you, that you are protecting her and that you are guarding her and that you're taking care of her. So really, from that perspective, it has nothing to do with the dominion that he gives to them both for the vision. And I think that that's where people get messed up and just don't the scripture is not, that's not being interpreted properly. So I just wanted to bring those points out, because even when we look at, just quickly, Proverbs 31, everybody wants a Proverbs 31 woman. Well, this was a businesswoman that was owning her own business. She was buying her own land. And now look, it never says that she goes to her husband and says, honey, can I buy this land? It says that she sees a plot of land, makes the decision, sees that it's good, and purchases it. She's a businesswoman. She buys and sells and takes care of her house and takes care of her business. Her husband is known in the gates, and he's proud because it's like, look at my wife. My wife is moving and shaking some stuff. That's because they're all in the same, under the same mission. Under the same mission. But if we get to that place where we start using submission as a dirty, oppressive word, then now we don't want her to make more money than us because I feel some kind of way. Now I don't want her to have, I mean, just whatever. It can go to so many levels that it becomes oppressive, and that's not what what Father Yah is saying in that statement, and he shall rule over you. So I think that that's one of those things. And I just want to quickly say thank you, Finding Nashima. She came back on and she has apologized. Thank you very much. We're having a conversation and we're just listening to what our young sisters have to say. And we accept your apology. We get it. We get it, because sometimes this is part of the iron sharpening iron. When we see iron going against iron, sharpening iron, what do we see? Sparks. Absolutely. We see sparks. And this is what happens. But we have to open our ears and listen so that we are able to come back and give and have good open dialogue on what should be going on. So thank you so much for coming back on and giving us that comment.
I was gonna say, well, on the heels of that, I agree totally. If Finding Nashima hears this, shalom to you and your household. Seriously, I appreciate your comments. To go to Mom's point, so that one scripture, I can't help it. I got to do it. 3:16, where it says, "And He does rule over you." Preposition words are very important to us. Very, very important to us. Over is a preposition word. So, yeah, that word should not be translated as over. The word itself says in you. And He shall rule in you. Literally from the Hebrew, it says in you, not over you. And I bring that out because that would be a real easy one, or that is a real easy one to go to and say, you're supposed to submit because Genesis chapter 3 says.
And you're correct, because it does have a bay, and it says ba mashal. So that bay does mean in you, correct.
I was just going to say, I think it's very important to the conversation when we think about submission as well. I would have to disagree with Lori on the part of like us being equal. I don't think that every man you're equal to, like in the sense of like, I don't think that submission is something that I don't think it's an equal exchange with everyone. I think that there is a level of hierarchy that is required sometimes in roles and responsibilities. And we see this even when it comes to like a parent and a child, right? Like me and my son, we are not equals. I can talk to him, I can be respectful, I can listen to him, I can be gentle parenting, la 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 la. But there is a level of responsibility that is required in our power, again, to Miss Christina's words, this power exchange, this energy exchange. And I think the same thing applies when it comes to being in a specifically, not in your dating journey. I don't think submission comes into play in your dating journey. I don't think that is a word that you should be using and applying in your dating journey. It should be an open dialogue conversation point. I don't think you need to be doing it to everyone you date. I want to make that very, very clear. I think that is more reserved than sex, if I'm being open and honest about it. But primarily in the confines of a committed long-term partnership, whether that's partnership or whether that's marriage, I do think that there are certain responsibilities that naturally come into play that a man may have where, okay, yes, he may not be ruling. And I think too, thinking about the historical context, to rule over someone does mean to have dominion or dominance or control over them. Historically, culturally, that's just what that phrase means, right? I don't think that it's the same thing as what we're talking about in the form of submission as responsibility. I think that submission requires a level of responsibility. So if I say that I'm submitting to my husband and I'm saying, hey, I'm going to be the one that handles the finances, he's submitting to my ability to handle those finances. Now that means that that responsibility is on my shoulders to make sure it's done well. Because if it's not done well, whoop-de-doo, now we broke, now we poor, we bankrupt. God forbid, right? Heaven forbid. But I'm just saying in that sense. And then the same way, submission for him, if he says, you know what, we're going to move cross country. And when we move cross country, we're going to do la, 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 la. If I submit to that vision and that idea for our family, and he's taking on that responsibility, if something fails, that is his responsibility to fix. So I think that we have to make sure to think about submission as a responsibility, a heavenly responsibility to your partner, to the mission, to your family, of what does this great success look like in the long term. And I do think that you can disagree with somebody's submission. Like, I do think that you should disagree. If someone says something, they're like, hey, this is what I see for my life, for my vision, you can be like, no, and take yourself out of that. I think it's wise and it's smart to do so. And I love that we brought up the Proverbs 31 woman, because people be beating that into a dead horse, that she's just a submissive, like she is literally a powerhouse multimillionaire boss woman. Like she is literally the epitome of waking up at 4 a.m., getting your workout in, drinking. Like she's the millennial version of the boss babe, like literally. And the fact that so many men demonize women that make high value money and high la 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 la, and think that you're just supposed to be this little house on the prairie milkmaid. Even then, those women were still powerhouses in their communities, because if I don't milk this cow and make this cheese, we not gonna eat. Okay. If I don't put the seed in the ground after my husband plows it, we're not gonna have a harvest. If I get lazy and I don't stir this pot of stew over this fire for 8 hours, when this winter snow comes in, we gonna die because we ain't got nothing to eat. So to Lori's point, as far as that providing aspect, I do think that there is an even level of a power exchange when it comes to provision. But I think that, again, that is a open dialogue conversation that you have with your person, because not every man is expecting to be the sole financial provider of his family, but also not every woman wants a man to be the sole financial provider of their family. Right? I had to learn that I like to be a stay-at-home working wife. That's what I like. I can't be a stay-at-home wife. I got too many things I want to do in life. I can't be out here pushing the broom and vacuuming every day. I can't just be raising children. I'm going to go insane. It does not work for me. But I actually like having freedom of my time and being able to work from home and being able to travel I like that. But that was something I had to learn, that doesn't work for everyone else, right? And again, with your partner, does that work for your partner's lifestyle? You have to have these conversations, but you also have to be, again, truthful with yourself. I think it all boils down to, with your dating journey, honesty and truth. All of these questions and topics that we've had, they all go back to, and I just want to also say, Christina, I just want to say publicly, I am so proud of you. I am so proud of the transparency that you had, like in the conversations that you were talking about. When you mentioned about, you being with your partner now, but you still like having to deal with and heal with certain things. And I just want to encourage you in this moment publicly, like, you're going to be so much better on the other side of the things that you're working through. And I'm so happy that you have a partner that sees you for who you are, that listens to you. And I just want to commend you, like, all the healing that you've done up until this point has brought you into a healthy place with a partner that sees you for who you are. And I just wanted to say that, I meant to say that earlier before I started like going into my little soapbox, because it's so important. Like, life is hard as a young woman dating out here in the 21st century. Let me tell you, I tell all my girlfriends that are married, work it out, figure it out, go to counseling. Like, babe, go to counseling. I promise you, the problems, the nitpicky stuff that you find as a nuisance and stuff like that, you're going to find that in another man. Or heal, do the work to heal. But I just want to say, Christina, I'm very proud of you. And yeah, at the end of the day, submission, I think it's used as a word to oppress people, but don't, if I could just encourage any young woman out there, do not get hooked. Don't get sidetracked into this red pill patriarchy society of what these men that are unmarried, never been married, don't have good relationships with their mothers, don't have good relationships with their baby mothers. They have 4 or 5 kids, no commitment. Don't allow these men or even these women to make your destiny something that the Most High has not called you to be submitted to. That's not the mission for your life. So, yeah.
Well, thank you, Gloria.
You're
I wanted
welcome.
to go back to question 4, saying I was on, but apparently I wasn't on. Y'all couldn't hear me. If that's okay, can I give my response to that? So the question was, what is something that is a challenge for you in a relationship? And for me, it's being in a relationship, like understanding, especially because we have so much social media out there, and now thinking about the 10 commandments, don't covet, but you see all these people broadcasting like how they're having fun with their partners and some of these silly pranks that they're doing with their partners, and it's like, oh, I want that with mine, or I want to be like this, I want to be like them. And it's like, no, I need to figure out with my partner what is going to work for us. Just because Jack and Jill did ABC doesn't mean that ABC is going to work for me and him. So coming to that understanding of just how to be in a relationship is my challenge.
That's good, Christina, because we see relationships all the time. And I tell people all the time, social media is fake. There are people on social media that are very much so living their best life. Absolutely. Like, 2 things can be true, right? But also, the nature of social media is to be aspirational. It is to covet. It is to create envy and jealousy and all these things, right? But on the reverse side of that, it is to inspire. It is to provide hope. It is to give you faith, right? So I think, again, what is your heart space saying? Are you dealing with envy? Are you dealing with jealousy because there are certain things that you have, not you, Christina, but I'm just saying in general, people have not healed from, have not overcame, right? To where you see every happy couple and you think that they're lying. No, everyone's not lying. Some people truly are happy, right? So I think you bring up a very interesting point of, making sure that when it comes to you and your person, again, that open dialogue, knowing what is our journey, what is our mission, what are our core values, what are we aligned to? Do we want to have more kids? You got a child? Cool. I got a child? Cool. Are we going to have more kids? What are our boundaries with our families? You like your mama? I like my mama. You don't like your mama? Why? You know what I'm saying? Like, you got having these open dialogue conversations is important so that when you do decide to commit to someone, you know what you're committing to. Because a lot of times we submit to things and we don't know what, as women, we don't know who or what we're submitting to. And that can also be detrimental because you didn't take the time to really listen to a person. And you just thought he was cute and he bought you Chanel. But whole time you submitting to a demon. Now you got to get on up out of there. No, for real. It happens all the time. Like, just candidly, it happens all the time. We submit to things that we don't know about all the time as women. It's just in our nature to, I feel like for a lot of us to be easygoing once we feel safe or once someone has projected an object of safety and whatever that looks like. Right. And so I said all I have to say. I think to your point, Christina, it is important. I think it is important to find couples and people that are that you can seek aspiration from. Like for me, my auntie and uncle are one of the couples I have aspiration from. They've been married all my life, all of my life. I've never not seen them not married, right? So they're people that I look to, and I've seen how they've had children, had careers. Like I have been, not for nothing, I'm Lori's little sister in a lot of ways. I've been there all along. And so they're one of the couples that I seek to aspire to, where I see, I'm like, wow, the Most High has, but like they have grandchildren that I can see the fruit of things when I was 7 that they started implementing into their lives, and their children's children now have this lifestyle of holiness, right? And so I think it is important as young women that we do seek out relationships that are aspirational to our core values, and don't deter from that. Make your algorithm, if you're going to be on social media, I make my algorithm submit to me. I don't want to see no drama. I don't want to see nobody get shot. I don't want to see no political. I want to laugh. I want to be a girl. I want to be in love, and I want to buy cute clothes. This is my social media, right? So I think it's important that you curate your vibe, right? Because at the end of the day, we're always on social media. No matter how much you try not to be on it, you're going to be on it for some reason, whatever platform is your thing. So I think it's important that you do find couples, women that you are like, you know what? Because it also places that mustard seed of hope that you're not just out here working and trying to heal with no expected end. There's a reason why we have testimonies. You just see somebody's testimony. Social media is nothing but a testimony in 4K on the phone, right? For some people, honestly, like, hey, I used to be here and now I'm here. You're just seeing it's a testimony in a different way. Culturally, we keep coming back to this word culturally. They didn't have iPhones in Moshe's day, okay? But if they did, I'm sure we would see the Israelites being like, hey, we've been marching for 40 years. Like, I'm tired. Well, I'm about to go build this golden calf. He ain't come back now. You know what I'm saying? Like, we would have, sorry, this is how I see scripture a lot of time in my head. Like, it's very ebonics sometimes in my brain. And so, but just like, honestly, if they had the technology we had, they would be doing a lot of the things we see today. So I will say, I think it is okay to have couples that you aspire to. But to Christina, to your point, I think you do just have to check your heart and your mental space to make sure that you aren't coveting or trying to, that aspirational line does not cross over to, now you're looking at your man like, but so-and-so man just bought her a la. Why you don't do that? That's not y'all journey. That wasn't the mission of y'all family for y'all to have 50 Birkins, So, yeah.
Well, ladies.
Wait. I got one thing. I'm sorry. I just had to do it. The submission thing. I wanted to address one thing, Gloria. You said not being equal. I just wanted to clarify that I don't mean that our partnership is equal in all things. I meant more like equity. What you're good at, you do. What I'm good at, I do. We build the household together. And the fact that we, I hear this quite often, though, especially when it relates to men and women relationship, intimate, romantic relationships. It's often compared to parenthood. I don't like that. I'm going to throw that out there. I don't like that. That's weird. Because you're not my father. I have a father. He raised me. So my husband is not my father, is my point. But I feel like I'm trying to put it out there in the universe that we can all not compare intimate romantic relationships with parental relationships, parent and child. Because again, my husband will never be my father, and he should never ever treat me as such. And I'll stop there. Okay.
Touche.
And that's a great um, ending point, because that's when we know that the word is being misused and mishandled or misunderstood. Um, your wife is an adult. She's not a child. She's an adult. So if we can just remember that, that may help in our understanding of that word submission, that it is for the good of the family, period. Doesn't matter who's bringing it in, it doesn't matter. It's for the good of the family. So we tend to, take that thing and because I think people are so broken and messed up, and like Christina talked, trauma bonding is real. When people have been traumatized, you have a gentleman who has been traumatized by a misogynistic figure of a female that is, a matriarch in the family, and or been spoken down to or treated badly by, then they will come out with these issues when they get married or when they meet a woman, and they want, now I've got somebody who I'm going to use you as, now you are my possession, and now I oppress you, and I just do it because I feel like I can, because I'm dealing with the trauma of this whole matriarchal system, or that's been in my family or the man's family, speaking of, from a man's standpoint. So we also have to see that, but that's part of the conversation that has to be had. And it's I think personally it's really ridiculous for a man to just start talking about submission on a date. I would run. I'd be like, sir,
Yeah.
and I would say, sir, I'm blocking you. I am leaving because I have my own car. I drove myself here. And if that's what you want, peace out. I'm out. Because
Yeah.
that's not something that you should say or ask a woman in the time of just dating, because she doesn't need to submit to you, because there's no mission. You're not together. You're not a couple. There's no mission.
They be thinking you together though. They be thinking. In their brain, you are territory that has been conquered because you went on a date. They be
Oh,
thinking.
wow.
I'm serious. I'm so serious.
Even all that.
I don't understand. We can't misuse and mishandle those words, because that's not appropriate, and it's not appropriate to treat an adult like a child, because you wouldn't want to go on a job and be treated like that by a superior, by a boss, or by your superior, your supervisor. They're your supervisor. Then they don't get to treat you like, or talk to you like you're their child. And you wouldn't put up with that. Nobody would put up with that. But you will go home and oppress your wife and, do stuff like that. It's just, there's been horror stories concerning that word, because men don't know. I'm not saying all men. Some men don't understand how to regulate themselves, and they just don't understand that the word does not mean what they think it means. Yeah.
Mhm.
Does anyone have anything else you want to bring out? And I'm going to just throw this out there. We are going to be putting together a panel of male and female to come together at the table to discuss, so we can get, a full picture of this discussion, because we didn't want this discussion to just be something that we come and sit down and talk about and then it just kind of floats off into the stratosphere. But we wanted it to be something as an ongoing, because as we are matriculating as women, matriculating through our life, we're now at the stage where we are looking at marriage, going into marriage, and we want to try to deal with situations that encompassing all of that in that time, going, in the dating stage, in the marrying stage, beginning of the marrying stage. So this is something we want to, to continue the dialogue and the discussion, because it's just so, really so important. And we want to thank you ladies again for coming on, and just, it has been so good. And I'm going to ask you, please, if you would be available once we get that together, to come on with our panel of men, to be able to just discuss, maybe not the same questions, but something, but more towards the communication part of it, because truly we do speak different languages. We absolutely do. That's like I said, one time I was laughing, and my husband said, do you need another dress? I was going shopping. I was like, who needs another dress? Nobody needs another dress. You want another dress. You just, who needs another dress? I mean, there's probably some people who do need another dress, but that wouldn't be me. So but that's the kind of language barrier. A man would say, why are you going to buy another dress? You don't need another dress. You got all them dresses upstairs. We just want another dress. Yes. Absolutely. We're going somewhere, and yeah, I'm going to buy something new. Yeah. Because that's what we do as women. So those are those conversations, those are those little talking points that are different between men and women. So we just like to try to do something in bridging that gap in the conversation, so we can get an understanding of, like, I believe it was Lori who said we need to use better words, use more effective language, so that we can really get our point across. Christina, is there anything that you want to say or bring out?
Yeah, you know what? And those are 2 points. I know that we, including Prophetess Deborah, that's missing. We knew that when we first came up with this idea to have a podcast, that we were going to be a different type of podcast, and that it was going to ruffle feathers, because we were going to purposely talk about topics that were hard, and that all of us have the same type of thought process when it comes to tackling topics, that we want to keep it real, and we don't want it to be cookie cutter, just having another podcast to be having another podcast. So with that comes scrutiny, with that comes misunderstandings, with that comes, an audience who may not be studied like they should in the biblical narratives. And so we know that, but we are not going to shy away. And so I want to say that effective listening and learning how to communicate, I hope that we can model that to our audience, because because my son was like, well, Ma, you were sitting there quiet. Exactly, because we want to hear from the panel, right? And you'll see me sitting here listening intently because I want to learn how to listen. So by the time, and we're teaching even our young women, as we lead by example, how to listen with understanding and coming up with, like Lori suggested, maybe we need to, focus on word usage. Exactly, because we don't want to just be another podcast that do the same thing. We want to bring change to our community because we're tired of seeing certain things. So we know that's going to come with backlash, because right now our whole series have been tearing down misogynistic thinking and sexist views, and how we even view the Bible from a very misogynistic and sexist way. And so, and then you'll see our own religious spirit rise up, that's in us, that's in me, and be like, woo. But when you take the time to have honest conversations and to midrash, and a lot of people don't know how to midrash. A lot of people, unfortunately, don't know how to study. And I don't want to sound like I am like a doctorate in, I don't want to sound like that. But we have like a lot of new people. I don't care if you've been in here 5, 6 years, 7 years. We are really unskilled in handling Torah, right? And so then we bring the scriptures into our conversations without really being studied. We only know what we know, but we have to learn how to communicate and talk about real world topics with logical solutions, even though we are believers in the Bible. And that is very hard to do because most of us hide behind the Bible in our spirituality instead of looking at us and how we make decisions. And we want to hide behind the scripture because the scripture said, I know that's how we read in Western thought, but since you brought it up, now we have to correct that thought. We have to bring culture and history. And so how about we just have candid conversations? How about that? How about we just talk candidly and truthfully? How about that? Let's start there first. And then in our safe spaces, when you want to bring those scriptures up, then we're going to have to midrash, tell you what it really means. Now reapply it to this particular topic and still make a logical decision. People hate that, but I know this is a spiritual thing as well, but we heavy on the spirit and we don't have no common sense down here on earth. Not a lick of sense. So with that being said, this is a podcast that helps us to communicate effectively and to listen effectively with understanding without responding, learning that some topics is going to trigger us. That just is what it is. Some topics are going to trigger men heavy, and some topics are going to trigger women heavy, but we still got to have the conversation. And I always teach, you are responsible for your own triggers. Nobody else is responsible for your trigger words, topics, conversations that trigger you. So if you know that, and that goes for all of us, if we know that, then when we are listening to conversations like this, we need to gauge our own nervous system and say, "Ooh, they talking about sex." I have a personal conviction. Let me calm down because my thought process may be different. So let me listen with understanding so that I can respond correctly, right? Because you got to respond. But sometimes we don't understand the trauma that we have as we are having these conversations. And I don't care how many people want to get tired of me saying that. I'm going to say that until I close my eyes, because that is a tremendous, it's tremendous, a tremendous amount of weight that we put on ourselves when we view topics like this, and we don't understand the trauma. And that's why we put the weight of, wait a minute, sex is bad, or wait a minute. And we come to the table with that weight, and we need healing. We need healing. And so I'm hoping that as we continue these conversations, that people will try to understand what we are doing. Even if you don't agree with the panelists, just try listening to understand. That's all we're asking. And no, we are not giving you, now everybody that know me know when I give advice, honey, I'm gonna shoot straight and direct. Robbins is like that. Prophetess Deborah Hawkins is like that. We shoot straight. We don't beat around the bush. We gonna tell you straight up. If you ask, right? Unsolicited advice, unsolicited opinions is just that. Nobody solicited opinions unless we're having a panel, a discussion like we're having now. So we got to learn how to communicate effectively. We have to learn how to listen. So that's what I wanted to add, because I know when we have the men and women come together, I think they're going to do good together just by listening to the men first and listening to you all. I think when you come together, you can show some of the elders how to have a conversation and to listen effectively. I'm serious. It's a shame that we're going to have the younger people come on to teach the older people how to listen and have conversations effectively. Like, you can have a different point of view and still have a great conversation. Man, and that's a tough one. But as we said, our older elders and stuff, like, they seem to be really immature. This is not a dig or shot at certain people. I'm talking about as a group, as a nation, as believers overall. So I'm excited about this next one. Is that what we doing next week? Or we gonna take a break?
I think we're going to take a break so we can get the men and the women together.
Okay.
And we'll once we put that together, then we'll come back. But I think maybe a week or two of a break. And then we can come together.
Okay.
Hopefully y'all will be available still. And we'll contact the men and see if they're available, and then we'll come up. But I'm thinking maybe a week or two. We'll see how that works out. But we all just as a disclaimer, listen, we do not look for opinions like ours. That's not. So if you think that that's what this podcast is about, it's not. We are looking at conversations, having the conversation about these hard topics. We are not looking for people who believe the exact same way that we believe. That's not what we're looking at. That's just not this podcast. And if anybody is thinking, oh, that they're not believing, this is a podcast on an open, a safe space for a person to be able to give their view and their perspective. And sometimes their view and their perspective is a different interpretation of what they think the scripture says. And I often say, we come into the Torah and we've been in it 5 years. Well, we're in kindergarten. Think about that. You're in kindergarten. So, I mean, you've got to be able to sit down and listen to those who are on the senior level that have been walking in it for more than 12 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So you want to make sure that you are understanding where you are in the whole scheme of things. If you've been in it 7 years, well, you're in the second grade. That's just, I mean, if we want to break it down that way from just an educational standpoint
Right.
of your learning. So we want to be able to just cultivate, as I say in the beginning of every broadcast, we are cultivating healthy and open dialogue between mothers and daughters, husbands and wives, mature and younger women. These demographics is important because there's been a breakdown where mothers have not been passing on what they should have been passing on to their daughters, and because they're not listening, children are going on trying to figure things out for themselves, as it was said. So, Christina, thank you for that. And ladies, Lori, Gloria, Casina, thank you again. Thank you so much for coming on, taking time out of your busy schedule. We do not count that, we do not take that this lightly, that you have come on and spent this much time with us to go over these topics and be able to talk about them transparently and honestly. Um, and we will never look at you in any kind of way other than with love and respect, as because I get it. I hear you. It's hard out in these 2026 streets. I just can't even imagine, what it looked like, because it didn't look like this when
Right.
me and my husband were dating and coming together. It didn't look like this. So we thank you so much for coming on, and thank you for your candid talk. And we're excited. We're going to get with the men, and we're going to get a time, and we're going to get, I'm really excited about that. And we are going to just have a real good discussion. So I may come back and ask you for some thoughts and opinions on maybe 4 topics that really are at your heart, that you really want to hear from a man's perspective. And we're going to do the same thing with the men, so that we can have a really good conversation. We don't want to I don't think we should make up the question this time, but that it's important that what you all want to hear and what they will want to hear from you all.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay.
All
All
right.
right.
We ready to close out? Our email is the righteous view 01 at gmail.com. Please send in topics that you feel will be beneficial. If you have a degree or special training in a specific area related to women's health and would like to be a special guest, please email your bio and we will review it and reply as soon as we can. I don't
Mhm.
know. We're not continuing next Thursday, but give us a week or so. Maybe we'll put out some videos to fill in those weeks. So next week we'll have not next week, but a couple of weeks, maybe a week or two, we'll have the men and women come on and share their perspectives on relationships. And if you have enjoyed the podcast so far, please tune in and tell a friend. If you put a comment in the chat that we didn't address, please email us and we will reply as soon as we can. And I want to stress that if you have a comment or a question that you want us to address, email it to us, because you might not feel comfortable typing it in the chat, but email it to us, because some people may be curious as to why we say what we say, and we can further explain it in the email. All right.
Absolutely. And our email again is I'm getting ready to do the wrong one. The righteous view. What is our email? Oh my goodness.
01@gmail.
The Righteous View 01@gmail.com. Oh, Father. So we just want to thank you all. Thank you to our guest panelists again. Thank you to our viewers. We thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to another edition of The Righteous View. Have a good evening, everyone.